Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gora Bhaktavinda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Advaita Gora Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gora Bhaktavinda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gora Bhaktavinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gora Bhaktavinda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gora Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Shri Bhakti Rakak Shiradev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju ki Jai. Govinda Farm Festival ki Jai. All the assembled devotees ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari.
Gaur Hari Bol. Jai.
I have plenty of questions for you.
So the class is
I'm
supposed to
excited.
be, what is the title of the class?
No, I forgot it.
A lifetime of
Lifetime of
service.
service. Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little bit wrong.
Well, we don't.
I think it should be a lifetime of practice.
Okay.
Oh,
Right? Because that's what we're doing. We're practicing Krishna consciousness. Certainly we're not, we haven't graduated. We're still in the elementary or kindergarten stage. And so we're practicing Krishna consciousness. And what is it? How do we practice? So some instruction comes from Guru. Otherwise we don't know what's important. There's so many different activities that we can do in service. But what is real service? Service is something that is accepted by the Guru, and then through his mercy it gets offered up to his Guru and eventually to Krishna. So to me, that's the most important part of our service life, is that connection with the Guru's instructions. And so sometimes those instructions are general instructions like Trinadapi Sanichena, Tororati Seshna, be humble, be tolerant, be respectful. And there's a lot of general instructions like that are very important to us. And that becomes like the background of all the decisions we make and how we act. But there's also specific instructions that the Guru gives. And sometimes, if we're fortunate enough, some specific instruction will come to us. I heard Govinda Maharaj say on a number of occasions that he didn't like to give specific instructions, because then if the devotee didn't follow those instructions, they were committing some offense. And so then that was not good for their spiritual life. So he was very hesitant to give specific instructions. So if we find ourselves that we were very fortunate to get a specific instruction, then that's something like to hold on to, like, to never let go, because it was special, very special. But of course, Govinda Maharaj's mercy was there for everybody. So when Govinda Maharaj established the ashram in Sokel, that was in 1993. So Sagar Maharaj was there, and Govinda Maharaj, of course Janard Maharaj, many devotees, probably Mohan was there. Anyway, Govinda Maharaj had us do a fire sacrifice at the property there, in the building, in the basement of the building that became his house. And so he, had Sagar Maharaj and Janard Maharaj do the fire sacrifice, and then he left that building and went and sat outside and just kind of was hanging out. And so then I went and sat with him, and then he started talking about the ashram and what we should do. And at that time he gave like some instructions on what I should do in the ashram. He said, Janard Maharaj will be the spiritual head here, and then pretty much you take care of everything else. Not in those words, but that was the gist of it, And so, with the instruction of a great Vaishnava Acharya like Govinda Maharaj, also comes the ability to do it. We have the free will to do it or not, to try to do it, but that it's not like an impossible task, because behind us is that strength, you know. And if Govinda Maharaj wanted something, for sure it was going to happen, you know, because he had, like, you know, friends in really high places. And so, you know, if there was something that he wanted to be accomplished, then we knew that with his backing it could happen. And so I have to say that, you know, through all the years of, you know, trying to manage the ashram in Sokel, that it's always been Govinda Maharaj's mercy and power and support that have made anything successful. And of course, you know, we interfered with that and made it unsuccessful in so many ways, but his mercy still came through, you know, and fixed it up. And, you know, his ability to call on the higher, from the higher platform, some help, then, you know, we could understand that was like some miraculous event that was taking place. And it may not look miraculous, but, you know, it really was. It really was a miraculous event. And so we always felt that behind everything there was Govinda Maharaj's his desire that happened, and that his giving us the ability to do it. And still to this day, that's the truth of a Sokel ashram. And it was one of his favorite places. He went to Sokel eight times on his world tours. 10 times to California, 2 times to Kumkum and Rashad Bey's house, and then the other times to the Sokel ashram, because by then we had a room for him, you know. We had to purchase the property, and we had some place. But, and one of those times he stayed for 6 months. You know, one of those times he stayed for 6 months. And, you know, he had kind of thrown that out into the ether, you know, to stay for 6 months, several times, you know, and so it was always like, wow, will he stay for 6 months? Will he? And then he came one time and said, yes, this time I'm going to stay for 6 months. And I said to him, well, this is our dream come true. And he said, no, Prabhu, this is my dream come true. So that was his affectionate embrace for us at the Seva Ashram. And throughout the years, he gave us some instructions on what to do here and there. But mainly it was like, you know, be nice to one another, you know. I remember even the time that he said about smiling, you know, that you should always have a smile on your face. And if you can't, then have it surgically implanted. Have some surgery so you always have a smile on your face. Because, you know, when you're smiling, then other people smile, and it's contagious, you know. That's what association means. And so it wasn't like, you know, some big, mysterious instruction. It's like, you know, smile, you know. And I would have to say that, you know, the most important thing is to show up for service. You know, I think that was Woody Allen. He made that statement, you know, 90% of success is just showing up. Of course, Woody Allen's like, you know, we don't want to name him anymore because he's has a bad reputation. But he said something good.
Yeah.
But really, just to show up for your service. You know, we don't know what we're doing. You know, when we start doing our service, we don't know anything about it. You know, deity worship, kirtan, cooking, anything. We don't know. But gradually, you know, by the association of devotees, and we learn a few things. And if you just show up, you know, then some benefit will come. in the long run. So that was, Govind Maharaj established our ashram in 1993, 32 years ago. Is that it? 32, yeah. Just trying to show up. He told my wife and I, when we first got the ashram, we were living in Aptos, a little bit a ways, and so we spoke with him. I said, Maharaj, we'd like to move closer. Maybe we can get a house on Mobile Gulch Road, the road that the ashram's on. He said, no, you move here to the ashram. And so we moved the ashram. He said, and then my request is you never leave.
Wow.
So that's what we're trying to do.
I hope you don't mind, Hasyapriya, but I just want to mention very quickly, because I went to you guys' house in Aptos. It was an incredible place. Huge picture windows overlooking the ocean, absolutely amazing place. And Hasyapriya Prabhu and his amazing wife, Swarnangi Didi, moved into a trailer on the land. And they still live in that trailer. And that's a life of real sacrifice, and
But also very easy too. Living in a big house, nice, a lot of responsibility. And for what? What do you get out of it? It's just a house. So I like the trailer. I can't say my wife agrees with me on that. But over the years, we've tried to improve the ashram and mainly building rooms for the devotees. So now we have maybe 20, 22 rooms for the devotees, and so devotees come and go. I'd say maybe there's 10 to 15 devotees that are there all the time. But devotees will come and visit, and we try to teach them something about Krishna consciousness. And maybe they'll just come for a week or weekend or whatever, or months. Sometimes people just come for months, and then it's an experience. It's something that we're learning about Krishna consciousness. We're learning how to practice Krishna consciousness. It's, how to sit in class, how to, honor prasadam, how to treat the devotees, how to be, all these different things that, maybe we take for granted, but a brand new person doesn't know any of it, And so then they start learning, and there's some appreciation there. So we try to do that, try to have some facility for guests to come, and it's austere facility. It's not like luxurious like hotel facility, but this facility here is a lot nicer than ours. But it's sufficient, and the devotees are very, very happy with it, not like, anyone is being put out. They're happy with that lifestyle, and it's what they want, it's what devotees want.
Prabhu, there's so much more that we want to hear about Socal Ashram. But the theme of this talk is a lifetime of practice. And your early days are very invaluable to hear about. And I was speaking with someone just the other day about the early printing of the books and how remarkable it was when we first got books that we could read. I think it was Raiki Shori mentioned that you were involved with, was it Chaitanya Charitamrita? It wasn't you.
It wasn't me either.
Okay. Maybe
I was there in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
Yeah, in Los Angeles ISKCON.
Okay.
When Srila Prabhupada finished translations of the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
It was like a big event.
Yeah.
This was, I joined in ISKCON in 1972. That's a long time ago.
That's when I was born.
Can I interject? The question that I had was kind of piggybacking a little bit on that. Do you mind sharing how in the world you met the devotees?
Oh, this is a horrible
I
story.
know. Well, I'm
Everybody's
amazed.
like giving these wonderful stories. My story is so horrible.
It's rolled already.
Yeah, exactly. That's inserting the cliffhanger right off the bat.
You tripped and rolled, and there was.
So this was during the Vietnam War, and there was all these demonstrations in America. You know, teenagers and young students would go to these demonstrations. So there was a demonstration in Washington, D.C. Big demonstration. This was like, major. And I was living in New York City. We went down there didn't go down there for the demonstration. Went down there to find girls. To be honest, that was our motivation. So we're walking down the street, and the devotees are there, ISKCON devotees, and they have this, this booth, and they're serving prasadam, and they have kirtan, and they're on the left side of the street, and I see them, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, and I go over to the right side of the street. Somehow or other, I knew, that I would be, kidnapped or something, brainwashed. I had a premonition, so I went to the other side of the street. So that was my initial contact with devotees. Not very auspicious. But anyway, auspicious or not, it has some effect. There's a Gyanta Sukriti, unknowingly getting some Sukriti, some good benefit, and so obviously some hearing the holy name, some good benefit came. And then years later, I met devotees. I had moved to California and met the devotees there in San Francisco, and got Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And once I read the Bhagavad Gita, for me, that was the end of it, because it answered every question I had. Not only answered every question I had, but answered all the questions I didn't even know I had. And that's really what our when we read our books, that's what happens. Is that Guru Maharaj was talking about something of very, very high caliber, and we don't even know the question to ask, right? We don't even know, and then that information is coming to us, and it takes some time to digest it, but eventually something will happen. Something in our heart will open.
Was there a specific tenet that you can remember reading from Gita that was like, whoa?
Well, I tell you, I remember reading about how Krishna was blue. And I thought, wait a minute. But because everything else was so right on, I thought, okay, Krishna's blue. I'll just accept that, because everything else was good, was meaningful.
So it was like a kind of coming to home feel, like you felt very at peace with all of the different things that were being expressed.
I felt that it answered questions that had been in me for a long time. And so many questions, And that knowledge is just so perfect knowledge. It's not like it only half answers it. It fully answers it, So yeah, I felt very, very, very happy with that. And then soon after that, I joined the temple in Los Angeles. That's when I was really kidnapped and brainwashed. And then Prabhupada came to Los Angeles. He gave me initiation. I was very fortunate for that. And that was in the 70s, early 70s.
What happened that in the early 70s?
Can you speak a little louder?
What happened that in the early 70s in America, the movement, Krishna consciousness movement,
got bad reputation. What the heck happened? It's so eerily because you're 72, right?
72.
Then you say you've been worried to be kidnapped. It comes from some sort of...
That was the hippie, that was the age of the hippies, right?
Right.
And I was in there,
Okay.
drugs, rock and roll, sex, all of that stuff. That was the hippie culture, right? And, but it was, hearing Prabhupada's philosophy, hearing that philosophy from Srila Prabhupada, then you could understand how shallow that was. Before it was like so important, right? It controlled our whole life. But then, by the association of pure devotee, and you realize how insignificant it was. And then you have to find something significant. So, as Guru Maharaj would say, dive deep into reality. And then, and I have to say that, the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada in 1977, this was like, a traumatic experience for everybody in ISKCON, everybody all over the world, and the thing that saved me was Sri Guru and His Grace.
Yeah.
The book by Goswami Maharaj published of Guru Maharaj's teachings on Guru, and I just reread it the other day, that book. It's just so, so full of inspiration, and so then recognizing that our Guru had departed, Srila Prabhupada had departed from our vision, but here's this whole other world of gurus, and even as Guru Maharaj would call it, unseen gurus or unseen guardians, guardians all over. And so then by that association, that was my real association with Srila Guru Maharaj. I was very fortunate to be in the Mayapur Chandradoya Mandir when Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada were there together on that Vyasa-san.
Wow.
And I have no idea what was going on. It was like a brand new devotee. And, they say like, there'd be like a special dispensation for criminals, when a new president comes in or a new king or something. So I had I wasn't in the mission more than a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. And then I was sent to Mayapur for this festival. And it was because Prabhupada said, I want everybody to come. And so, it came down, the word came down from the top, And so they handed me a ticket. I thought, okay.
Wow.
I went to India. And so I didn't know what was going on. But, again, all these things have some effect on us, whether we can recognize it or not, it has some effect on us. We go into the temple room, we look at the deity, we don't know what we're seeing, The deity is seeing us. We don't know what we're seeing from our side because our vision is so mundane, But something happens, some effect is there, some purification takes place. And but really I consider my association with Guru Maharaj was from his books, from the books that Bhakti Siddhar Goswami Maharaj published. And I still reread those books, because I can read a whole chapter and then not even remember one thing, So it's good to reread it. And that's our wealth. That's our, our treasure that we've received is those books that because how much the material world is anti-Krishna consciousness. Everywhere we look, it's the opposite of Krishna consciousness. It's all me, right? Selfishness. And so even to read just for a few minutes every day something from this higher platform, then you remember a little bit, you know. And you might forget it a few minutes later, but, you know, then try it again the next day. But that is really our wealth, and we all have access to it, especially now with the internet. I mean, I have the whole library of books on my Kindle. I don't have to travel with anything except a Kindle. And but you know, some others are even more sophisticated and have it on their phones and stuff. My phone's not really that intelligent, or I'm not that intelligent. Other questions?
If you don't mind, I'd love to hear about your time in LA and sort of like what happened from there and kind of how you...
So Prabhupada came to LA quite often, and there was, Prabhupada was always into publishing books. That was like, like his nature, His nature was to publish books. It was like his instruction from his guru to publish books. And so everything revolved around that. So in Los Angeles it was a big temple, maybe 100, I don't know how many devotees, but a lot of devotees, a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So the book publishing was being done in Boston and New York, and it was kind of splayed out. It wasn't like an organized thing. And Prabhupada was very much involved in it. Like these artists, they would ask Prabhupada, "How do you paint Krishna? How do you, what does he look like?" And at first it'd be like this muscular guy, Prabhupada, had to correct him. And it was all done with letters. Prabhupada would write letters. The boys would write letters to Prabhupada, and then he would write them back, this, that, give instructions. And so there was, I don't know how many volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam were published at that time, but, a handful. And Bhagavad Gita and a few other little books. And Chaitanya Charitamrita was unmanifest at that point. Prabhupada had translated, but it wasn't published. And so then he was in Los Angeles, and at that time Rameshwar Maharaj was the manager of the BBT and of everything. And Prabhupada and he said to Prabhupada, "Well, are you going to translate more of the Chaitanya Charitamrita?" And he said, "Well, why should I translate? It's not even being published." And so then that was become the inspiration to Rameshwar. And he said, "Prabhupada, if you translate it, I'll publish it." Like threw down the gauntlet. It was, one of these things that, you look back at it and think, wow, he was really bold. And Prabhupada loved it, Prabhupada loved it. And he took him up on it. And Prabhupada started translating Chaitanya Charitamrita diligently, because Prabhupada was also traveling all over the world and opening centers and, giving, writing letters to devotees. I mean, we can't imagine how much energy he put into the cultivation of the devotees and the temples. So he started diligently translating Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then one by one Rameshwar would have them published. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, we didn't know anything about it. I mean, there was Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That was a book that was previously published, but other than that, we didn't know anything about Mahaprabhu and his associates and its pastimes. And so they would print 5,000 copies of each book. That was like the kind of the standard, and so then we were involved in the book distribution, and so then when the 5,000 copies would go into the BBT warehouse, and we would get a number of boxes, and really those boxes were just ripped open. Devotees would just sit down and read the whole book because it was like so fresh and so wonderful, and so there was nothing like that anywhere else, and so then one by one, every volume we read like that, and they all got published, and it was like some miraculous amount of time, 18 months or less, I can't remember now, but it was something that was yeah, and anybody who's published anything knows all of the difficulties in publishing, and that was before computers, before
No software, yeah.
no software. It was all done. And Prabhupada would, dictate, right? He had a dictaphone with a foot pedal that would stop and start, and then he'd give that tape to somebody, and they would type it on a typewriter. And then, but somehow or other, it all, by Krishna's desire, it all manifested. And thousands of books, and the Back to Godhead magazines, millions of them. And of course, all over the world, we travel all over the world, and we see these books, how they've changed the lives of so many people. And still they're changing the lives of so many people. These books are. So that was, the whole temple there was revolved around Prabhupada. Prabhupada's translating his books, publishing his books, distributing his books, reading his books. He would give class every morning in the temple room, Srimad Bhagavatam. He would read, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He would chant that 3 times. Everybody would respond. And then he would read one sloka, and then an hour class on that one sloka, And, Prabhupada was such a scholar, and he knew so many things. And so we were just mesmerized, just sitting there listening to him. Sometimes he would take a walk in the morning. Almost every morning he'd take a walk. And sometimes, it was like you're always praying. You'd get picked to go. And so sometimes I got picked to go, but not that often because I was organizing the Sankirtan, and those devotees were like after Mangal Arati, they were ready to go out and collect, sell books. And from that, after Mangal Arati, all the way to like 8, 9 o'clock at night, they were out just doing that. And so then my morning was, distracted by all of that. But sometimes we went on morning walks with Srila Prabhupada, and it was very informal, and it was like, Prabhupada's fun time, because he was talking with the devotees about different things, And then at that time, Swarup Damodar Maharaj was going to school in San Diego. He was going for his doctorate, and whatever he got his doctorate in, I don't remember. But he was a scientist, And so him and Prabhupada would spar back and forth, And Prabhupada loved that, You say this. And then Swarup Damodar would give like some atheistic, answer. Prabhupada would smash him. And Prabhupada loved that. You could see.
Amazing.
You mentioned the Sankirtan. Say something about your fleet of cars that you.
What's that?
Say something about the fleet of cars that you had.
Oh, the fleet of cars. Oh my God. Okay, so we had to find a car that was like really sturdy because devotees were not the best drivers.
Oh my God.
So throughout the years, you know, we went through a lot of cars, right? So we ended up with these Dodge Darts. They were like, you know, like tanks almost, you know. Like, you know, not like cars nowadays. These were like really, you know, strong cars, you know. If they hit you, you know, you were finished. And so we ended up thinking, oh, these are good cars. So we had one devotee who was a mechanic, and so I would just buy these cars used, you know, and we knew all the things that would go wrong on them. So we just give them to the mechanic. He'd like fix all those things. We'd replace all this, that, and that. And we had like a whole fleet of them, like 8 or 9 of them. I can't remember. And, you know, yeah, the devotees weren't the best drivers.
And Yudamanyu Prabhu was with you in that?
Yudamanyu was there in Los Angeles. He was in San Francisco for a long time. And then him and Jivana came to Los Angeles, yeah. Yeah.
So the initial time that you kind of are seeing Srila Guru Maharaj is at that big festival in Mayapur. And then, had you read anything or heard who Srila Guru Maharaj was?
No, I had no idea who he was. Yeah, it was so amazing to see somebody else on the Vyasasan with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this was like unheard of, you know. But we knew there was like some affectionate dealings going on. It wasn't like, you know, somebody just busted in the door and sat down. There was some, you know, affectionate dealings going on. And Govinda Maharaj was there. We didn't know anything about Govinda Maharaj. And really, I couldn't understand what they were saying anyway. So, you know, and but, you know, Prabhupada was so affectionate with the Guru Maharaj. So affectionate. And Guru Maharaj was so affectionate with Prabhupada, you know. They were like brothers, you know, spiritual brothers. And of course, Govinda Maharaj was like their son, you know, a son with 2 fathers, you know.
So at what point in time do you kind of connect who was sitting next to Prabhupada with like the teachings of Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, I don't know when it actually happened, but it, you know, at some point I realized, oh, that picture, I recognize that. I was there.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you don't really know what's going on, you know, you don't know, you know. I didn't know. And I'm sure some devotees knew the significance of that encounter, but I didn't know.
The devotees been aware that actually Guru Maharaj was the one to welcome Bhaktivedanta Swami coming back to India.
Yeah, so we heard about all those things later, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We didn't know that. We knew that, like, some of the devotees stayed with Guru Maharaj. Can't remember his name now. Famous devotee from ISKCON. But anyway. Yeah, Chudananda, yeah. The descent of the holy name.
Yeah.
Right? Guru Maharaj is talking about the descent of the holy name. Guru Maharaj is like so, you know, I mean, you don't have to know anything, and you can tell that he's not from this earth. You know, he's from some, you know, someplace way, way far above us, you know. And he had perfect vision, you know, was not a mundane vision.
You're in this bustle of activity, this huge amount of management, you know, resources and everything, and then Prabhupada leaves, and how did you transition to, you know, moving under the shelter of Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, there was a period, it was like a very dark period, you know, very, no connection, you know, no, and that was when we took shelter of Guru Maharaj's books, and then some light came from that, some encouragement, you know, And then I think it was with the association with Udamanyu, then, because he was always very much involved with Guru Maharaj. He was Guru Maharaj's collector. You know, he had a team of devotees collecting, and maybe 3 times a year he would fly to India with, you know, a suitcase full of money. Just hand it all over to Guru Maharaj or Govind Maharaj, you know, and you know, he, you know, Udamanyu Seva Vikram. Guru Maharaj gave him that name, Seva Vikram. Very, what is the word? Seva Vikram. Anyway, great servitor. Udamanyu told me this story once. He said, Govind Maharaj came to him and said, Guru Maharaj wants to give you a title. Is that okay? And Udamanyu's like, what? Of course, whatever he wants. And so then Guru Maharaj gave him that title, Seva Vikram, glorious servitor.
So Udamanyu Prabhu's service can already books of Guru Maharaj was printed by Goswami's effort.
Can you repeat that a little louder?
After books already been printed by Goswami, when
Right.
Udamanyu Prabhu was collecting for Guru Maharaj,
Yeah.
so they can kind of through those books.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the sequence of events, but
More or less.
yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned maintaining connection through Guru Maharaj's writings. How did you come across Guru Maharaj from these devotees that were associating with him at the time? From ISKCON, that's how you first had crossed.
So Goswami Maharaj and I had known each other for a long time. In ISKCON we knew each other. So it was through Goswami Maharaj that I got his books. And that was some introduction. And then once you get one of the books, you're addicted. So
We're hearing from you, and we all like wish, you know, oh my God, I wish I could have been there, lived this, but we know it comes with fully, you know, sacrifice, like giving yourself from the first day, never stop. And those days were, as you say, were not like, we have, you know, so many facilities now, everything, books, everything. So what can you tell us to give, you know, inspire us, give help, any suggestions?
yeah, I think Churchill said it best. Never surrender, never give up, always go forward. So, right, that famous Churchill speech that he gave in the middle of the World War II when everything looked bleak. At any moment, the whole of England would fall to the Germans. And he said, and he's, you know, gave that speech, never give up, never surrender. And so that's what we have to, you know, hold on to, is that never give up our connection. And even though everything looks so bleak, and we can see in our own spiritual life, you know, one day everything is great, the next day everything is falling apart. You know, that's like normal, right? And so, isn't it? But you know, behind everything is Govinda Maharaj's mercy, his strength, and his and even though, you know, we may, you know, temporarily lose sight of that, you know, then something happens and we have to take shelter of him, and we think, oh yeah, right, he is controlling everything. It's not up to me. The association with devotees is very important. I find it very helpful for my spiritual life coming here and being with all of you and hearing your stories, because you have nicer stories than I do about coming to Krishna consciousness. But it's an inspiration, and that's what we need. We need that inspiration, and our faith sometimes becomes very weak and shaky. And then we can see somebody else's faith is very strong and think, okay, yeah, he's got it together. I'll try to do that. Come.
Back to Sokal Ashram, could you tell about the events that led up to the purchase? There was the First World Tour,
Right.
and Srila Gurudev said, do it.
Right. Find some place in between Santa Cruz and San Jose. And he said at least 5 acres. And so then the search was on, And you know how, I mean, there was like 10 devotees involved. Everybody had a different opinion, and this and that. And but it was Rishabdev who contacted the real estate agent, Anthony Silvera, that was listing this property. And Anthony Silvera happens to be our next door neighbor, right? And he's a real nice guy. Him and I are good friends. I lend him our tractor from time to time. So anyway, then that property was purchased. It was difficult. It was $500,000, and we're who has the capacity to get a $500,000 loan or $400,000 loan, and so then. I'm an accountant, and so that fell on me to, try to put the financing together, and I did that, and Govind Maharaj chastised me about it because I did it a little bit wrong. So that was my first heavy chastisement by Govind Maharaj.
When the deed to the property came, it was a special day.
The deed to the property came on Radhastami, and so we had the center at 17th Street in San Jose with Brajamohini and Jayanta Krishna's house, and that was where the temple was. It was a rented house, and so it was Radhastami. It was like stormy, pouring rain, lightning, everything, and we were like determined to get the deed that day, and so in the middle, it was late at night, and so there was a Radhastami program going on at the temple, and Janardhan Maharaj was actually in Mexico at the time, so before he left for Mexico, I had him sign a power of attorney so I could sign his name on his behalf. So I was fortunate enough to get, his signature by me onto the deed legally, and but Sagar Maharaj was there. Sagar Maharaj was there, and he was doing the Radhastami program, and so then we came in and we had the deed, and I asked him if we could offer it on the altar we had a picture of the Navadvip deities, and so then we offered that on that day.
And I recall that Sagar Maharaj said, when that decision was made, to put it on the altar, and Sagar Maharaj said, put Hasyapriya on the altar.
Yeah.
That seemed like the impossible, but there it was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember, because at the time I didn't understand anything about financing or anything. I just remember people complaining. And like, $600,000, that is crazy. Why are they doing? I just remember that whole cacophony in the background.
Oh yeah, sure.
As a kid, and now you look at it and you're like, these guys are geniuses.
And it's all paid off.
Yes.
It's all paid off.
Mario Prabhu, I think.
That was, Govind Maharaj's, he so many times asked us, get your mortgage paid off, get your mortgage paid off, get your mortgage. And finally, it was Udamanyu's, after Udamanyu passed away, he had some retirement account. And Jivana took the money out of that retirement account and paid off the balance of the loan. So from day one all the way, Udamanyu and Jivana were, pillars of that program. And then Gurudev's departure in 2010, right? And so of course we were all devastated by that. And then I was thinking, we should do something at the ashram, like some people said, like a museum, with Gurudev's paraphernalia, things like that. And so then I was thinking, well, where would we do it, If we have it in a room, then people are going to have to knock on the door, can I come in? And so then I remembered, Govind Maharaj told me what to do. And one time I was in Navadvip, we were in Calcutta, and I was with Govind Maharaj, and Govind Maharaj, so he'd be sitting in Sokel in his chair, and then the door to the building would be over there. And there was a small window in the door, and he could see through that window. And then there was a tree out there that the kids would play on, right? It was really, kind of a fun tree for the kids. And so Govind Maharaj said to me, he said, after I die, he used these words die, which, Vaishnava doesn't use those words, but Govind Maharaj used that word. After I die, I want to come back and sit underneath that tree. And then the devotees can offer me prasadam there. And I was like, wow. And I thought, which tree, Maharaj? Because there was a lot of trees, and so I wanted to make sure we got the right tree, And so then, we went back and forth with Govind Maharaj, identify the tree. Okay, so now I knew the tree. So then we were thinking, what can we do to honor Govind Maharaj after his departure? And, the devotees can freely have his association in that environment.
Hasyapriya Prabhu, can you jai?
So then I remembered, Govind Maharaj told me where he wants it. And so then we went up to that tree, and it was like on a little hill there, and we realized, this is like the perfect spot. And then we started the construction there for his samadhi.
Beautiful.
And we took in Radha Damodar, in the courtyard, there's all of these samadhis, pushpa samadhis, and all different Vaishnava saints. And I think it's was Saraswati Thakur's pushpa samadhi. So I don't know how I remembered that, but I thought, that's a nice design, But it's a very little thing, right? So then we had Bahulavan. Bahulavan's a devotee that we knew in ISKCON. He lived up in Badger with the devotees there, and he was like expert at building anything. And he had built so many things in ISKCON. Probably half of LA Temple was built by Bahulavan. And but not only was a good expert, but he was like a devotee, and he loved Govind Maharaj. He loved Govind Maharaj. And because the house at Sokel, he also, when we purchased that property, was half built, and he finished the construction. And Govind Maharaj really liked that construction. He would tap on the windows, because it's like double pane, see, I can touch it, and it's not cold inside, but it's cold outside. Govind Maharaj loved those things. And so then I spoke with Bahulavan. I said, we're thinking of building a Pushpa Samadhi for Govinda Maharaj. He said, okay, let me know when you want me. Yeah. And then he came out, and he organized the whole construction. He was like the main person, and we were all like his assistants, you know. I mean, he kind of tolerated us, you know. He probably could have done it, you know, in half the time. But all the devotees in Soquel and in San Jose participated in this construction. Yeah. Even Janardhan Maharaj, Ashram Maharaj, you know, everybody participated in some way. And that was like therapy, you know, because everybody their heart was hurting so much from separation from Govinda Maharaj. And so now we had like some service that we could do to honor him, and everybody participated. And the day that we inaugurated that was today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. On Balashtami, the same day as Govinda Maharaj's sannyas day.
Wow.
And also the same day as Janardhan Maharaj's sannyas day too.
That's wild.
And so, you know, there's a rainy season in Soquel, and so we were in the middle of the rainy season trying to build this Pushpa Samadhi. And but all the devotees were like so enthusiastic, and people were just drenched, you know, just soaking wet, you know. And we had tarps up and everything. And so the night before, it was just, you know, horrendous storm, you know, unbelievable storm, you know. And then the next morning, the clouds broke, and it was just a beautiful morning. And then we had this a beautiful inauguration ceremony for Pushpa Samadhi. And everybody was amazed at how it came out, because to tell you the truth, I had written like on a piece of paper, like, you know, almost like a stick drawing, you know, of what I thought what it should look like. And thank God Bahulavan was smart enough to understand how to take that and manifest something beautiful. And he did that. And Madhavananda too. Madhavananda was key in that construction project.
Yeah.
So everybody participated in it, and it was, you know, a real community event, and it went on it took us a couple of months. It wasn't like a week or so, several months. And then of course, you know, the rain was coming, and we were trying to get it done by this day. We wanted this day to be the inauguration. And then finally it happened. It's a miracle.
Bahulavan's kind of a miracle too. He's like
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know him, we grew up with him in Badger, and he's the most unusual person. He's like from Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Like
Hey,
a
buddy.
good old boy. He's got a super heavy Southern accent, you know. He's got that rough construction humor, and like he's like the last person you would think would be a devotee.
Right.
You know, it's just like,
But his heart was so,
Yes.
so he loved Govinda Maharaj so much, and Govinda Maharaj loved him so much. It was like, you know, something you couldn't deny. And from his heart, that manifested.
wow.
Beautiful samadhi.
Didn't he pass soon after?
Yeah, not soon after, but he's passed away now.
Yeah.
And the last time we had on Gurudev's disappearance day, we have a program at that Samadhi Mandir. And last time we had a picture of Bahulavan there, because he had just recently passed away, you know, at the feet of Govinda Maharaj.
I wonder if it was his last project, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe it was his last project. Who knows?
Who knows? He was always.
Pretty active guy.
And then when Gurudev was there for 6 months, during that time, you know, at the ashram there's this big hill, and it's about 200 feet up. So it's a big hill, and so he would be in a scooter going around the ashram, you know, with a whole entourage of devotees, you know, trying to follow him, and sometimes he'd speed up and they'd be running, and then he'd stop, and everybody would like smash into each other. And so he, you know, we had a road, and he's at the bottom of the road looking at the top of the hill, and he's saying, can you make a path to the top of this hill? And I'm like afraid to say anything because it was a big job. And I'm hoping like somebody else is going in the crowd is going to like say, yeah, we can do it. Nobody says anything, right? So then the next day, same thing happens. Nobody says anything. The third day, he says that. I'm thinking, okay, I better say something because nobody said. So I said, yes, Maharaj, we can do that. We can make a path. And so then, we're thinking it was like a big job, right? 800 linear feet, walkway, path. And but there were so many devotees there. When Govind Maharaj came, so many devotees came. And so I went out and bought all these pickaxes, and shovels. I mean, like 20 of them, And so we had like a whole, you've seen like pictures of these work crews with the prisoners, they're all on the side of the road with the pickaxes breaking big rocks in the little. That's what it was like, up this whole hill, this row of devotees, and little boys, big men. Some of the girls would bringing lemonade and water to the devotees, and it was like 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday, and then we got a lot done those 2 days, and then it started raining again, so we had to stop. And I had sent the devotees said, "Oh no, we'll work out in the rain." So I said, "Okay, we'll go ahead," and then Govind Maharaj chastised me. He said, "You can't have them working out in the rain; they'll get sick." So I had to have them come back, and then the next weekend, the rain had stopped, and so in 4 days, that whole path was made, and that path was, enough for Govind Maharaj to go up there with his scooter. I mean, he had like a couple of devotees behind him pushing, extra, the battery wasn't quite powerful enough. But we made the whole thing in 4 days.
Wow.
4 days. And then we got to the top and we're like, wow, okay, we made it. And Govind Maharaj was sitting up there in his scooter at the top and said, okay, now you can build a temple here. And we thought, we just got here. So then he gave some instructions on how to build, simple temple, like I think it calls a pergola. Pergola is like, no sides, like this. There's no walls, and there was no roof, but we put a sunroof, suncloth on it, and so but that didn't happen during Govind Maharaj's time. That took some time afterwards that we made that temple. And he said you can bring Giriraj up here in the afternoon, and he can stay here and look out at the ocean, and so we did that, And so now every year we go up there during the Govinda Mela festival, and we bring all our Girirajas up there because we think we have 3 or 4 Giriraj also, and then we have a nice festival up there. And this year we had the play of the Govardhan play, Govardhan Leela. But Govind Maharaj had that vision of what our ashram would be. I remember when we first bought the property, and he went up to the very top where that Giriraj Mandir is now, and he looked down and he said, "It's always been my desire to have a big ashram like this." Because he was like, ISKCON had like these big ashrams in India and stuff, and he said, "It's always been my desire to have a big ashram like this." And he was pointing things out. So he had some vision, that gradually we're been able to incorporate some of it. There's still some unmanifested. he went to Brazil, and at the Brazil ashram they had all these ponds, little lakes and ponds and stuff. And so then he came back to Soquel and he said, "Can we have one pond here?" So we haven't been able to manifest that one pond yet, but it's on our, our desire someday.
Did he say where he wanted it from?
I showed him a picture of where, was a good spot, and he approved it. I gave it a name, Shigiraj Raj Kund. Shigiraj Raj Kund. Yeah. So it's, just unmanifested at this time. It's there.
Speaking of different Krishna stories, like Govardhan Puja, do you have a favorite story from Bhagavatam, or Chaitanya Charitamrita, or anywhere in the scriptures? Do you have a favorite story?
I've read the Bhagavatam a lot, and I know a lot of the stories. But I have to say that the stories with Govinda Maharaj are the most, fun, most meaningful to me. And whether, Govinda Maharaj was happy or angry, it didn't matter. It's like something significant in my life, that time. I tried not to make him angry, but we're all stupid, right? We all do stupid things. And he was so tolerant, and but sometimes it was just like too much, and no, I like the Govardhan Leela. Govardhan Leela. And every year I try to go to Govardhan Puja, do Govardhan Parikrama, and then we do that at the ashram. It's and it was something that Govinda Maharaj, he wanted us to bring Giriraj up there. He wanted like a parigram up there, a parade, and bring him up and worship him, and so that all of that, And the other thing that Govinda Maharaj wanted was, he wanted the ashram to produce something that could be offered to the deities. And so we planted some fruit trees, a number of fruit trees. And, where we live in California, there's a rainy season, maybe 4 months. And the rest of the time there's no rain. And so anything that you plant has to be irrigated. Am I beeping? All right. And so we did a whole irrigation. We planted about 100 fruit trees. And then every time Govinda Maharaj would come, we'd give him like a tour of the trees. But over the years, those trees have been neglected, and so now we're trying to, get them producing again. But neglected means, instead of thousands of avocados, we only get hundreds. The trees are pretty tolerant, and and then the other thing we did is we got bees, honey bees, and one time Govinda Maharaj was there. And the honey harvest usually happens around Lord Baladev's appearance day in August. It's like that's the time. And but Govinda Maharaj was there in the January, February time, and that year the bees had a special harvest in January and February. And so we were able to harvest the honey And then I showed Govind Maharaj how it all happened. And at first he was a little hesitant. He thought, the bees are going to die if we, take their honey. And we assured him, no, we keep, we save some for them. We only take a certain amount, And so then he became happy about it. And of course started quoting verses about the nectar coming from dropping to the lotus feet of the bees or their honey, and very kind of wonderful pastimes with Govinda Maharaj. So we have the bees are now again producing honey. We brought some honey this year for some of the devotees. Yes.
You've been managing a temple for so many years under Guru's instructions. What can you say about protecting the devotees from different dangers, like crazy?
Protecting the devotees from different dangers.
And also keeping them sane and healthy while having so much service, like having the balance.
What's that? Say that again?
And protecting them from the outside,
right,
and also from burning out, so to speak, while keeping the service going.
Yeah, so I depend on everybody to make their own schedule, because I've found that I'm not good at telling people how much to do and what not to do. And I've also found that devotees will do more when they're not asked to do things, because it comes from their heart, they want to give more. And so yeah, people do burn out, that happens. They get overwhelmed, and so we all go through that, up and down. As far as protecting devotees, really there's not much that we can do, not much that I can do to protect anybody, even myself, And but one time there was a neighbor in Sokel. He was really demoniac. I mean, there would be a devotee walking down Rodeo Gulch, that's the main road, chanting japa, right? And this man would complain to the police about him. It was like so crazy, It's like a real rich guy, He was one of the in the family of the balls, those jars,
yeah.
mason ball jars. So he was in that family, and they were very wealthy and had a lot of factories all over the world. And so he lived right across the street from us, and he was really disturbed by everything, not just us. All the neighbors complained about him. Because we would have gatherings once a year with the neighbors, and the neighbors would organize like a potluck, and we'd go there, and so we talk about these things. They all, nobody liked him. Anyway, he caused so much trouble with the county for us. He would call the county, and we'd had so many problems with the county, zoning and this complaint, that complaint. And so one year Govinda Maharaj was there, and I was explaining to Govinda Maharaj what problems this man was causing. And so there was a group of Russian devotees around us at that time. And they said, "Oh, we know how to take care of him." And I said, "Well, okay, not quite yet." And then by the next time Govinda Maharaj came, that man had lost his job. No, he was promoted to the Switzerland factory, right? So he sold his house, and then that promotion fell through. So he lost his job, but he had already sold his house, so he already moved to another place in Santa Cruz. And so he was nowhere to bother us anymore. So then I told that to Govinda Maharaj. He said, "Oh, some help has come from above."
He was taken care of.
So what protection can we get? That help has to come from above, That's my feeling. And it is there. It's there. And Govind Maharaj is very, very, very powerful, elevated Vaishnav, and capable of doing so much. And so his support and his backing, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Even though we may not be capable of doing it, right? What else? Anything else?
Pretty awesome.
That was awesome.
It's a good life.
It's a hard life living in the ashram,
Yeah.
Every day you can think, oh, it's so easy, and then a few minutes later, oh, it's so hard. But really, Govinda Maharaj's request to us to do that, and so with that, then some strength comes, some backing, Okay? Okay, Prabhu, Raya.
Hariharaya Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Hariharaya Namo Krishna.
Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhata Raghunatha Jiva Gopala Bhata Das Raghunatha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayama Vaishnava Pada Padma Kari Asha Ram Sankirtana Ohe Narottama Das. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Go Premanande. Jai Shriman Hasyapriya Prabhu ki Jai. Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Rupananda Guru Varga ki Jai. Jai Shri Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki Jai. Lord Bhakti Ashray Dandi Maharaj ki Jai. Jai all the assembled devotees ki Jai. The Farm Festival 2025 ki Jai. Jai Go Premanande.
Jai Hasyapriya, wonderful. Hare Krishna, this is why we are alive to hear such things.
Haribo.
Gora Gora.
I appreciate all of your association.
On behalf of everybody, we all appreciate your association.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
So silent.
Express how wonderful.
Yes. Yes. One minute, which one? Wait,